Hello YouTube, this is that Yi guy here with a guide for Berserker in Lost Ark. So Berserker is a class I personally played all the way to the end game at this point, and I highly recommend it. And I'm gonna go over it without using anything that's too fancy, or if I do use a Lost Ark specific term, I'll try to explain it so that people who are just joining can understand better. So let's get started. Some of you might ask why you should play a Berserker. I'm going to play some footage of me clearing some level appropriate content with Berserker at the end game, and you can see that the AoE is absolutely glorious and the skills are explosive, and the only downside is that the cooldowns are rather long. So during combat, if you do not manage your cooldowns properly, you might be stuck for a long time only able to auto attack, which is very awkward in Lost Ark. But if you juggle your skills correctly and effectively, you're gonna have it up when you need it. Another reason to go Berserker for the NA release, even as your first character, is that a lot has changed with this version. The subquest now gives a recipe selection chest, so you can actually get the class enabling engravings much earlier. So because I did all the subquests, I was able to unlock it at 39, as opposed to usually in other versions you will need to get all the way to the end game before you can grind for and eventually unlock this ultimate skill. Because we have access to the ultimate passive, I can just trigger the mayhem, and what that does is brings my HP down. And this looks like a drawback in the beginning because I only have a fourth of my HP as my max HP, but I also take 65% less damage. What that means is that I effectively have 3 times as much HP as I do. Now, if you do the math in your head, that means I only effectively have 75% HP, so technically I am squishier. But when you take healing into account, that becomes crazy, because what the mitigation does for me is that all the healing that's on me is now 3 times as effective. So every time I get hit, say for 1,000 damage, everyone else would take a full 1,000. I will only take 300, which is much easier to heal back. And there are some very cheap, abundant heal sources, such as recover 30% HP. This is not good enough for most other classes for in-game content, but for Berserker, this is a full heal. So that's fundamentally kind of cheating the systems of the game a little bit, and it's really, really good and very, very beneficial. You're gonna see that a lot in the in-game. If you have a support who can provide tiny bursts of heal, even 10% on you is way more significant than 10% on everyone else. Another thing you might have noticed is that even while I'm talking, I'm still in burst mode. So that is the beauty of this build. Because I have the mayhem fully specced in, I can just be in this mode indefinitely. So I will always have a damage reduction, and I'm always gonna get the movement speed, attack speed buff, and I'm just gonna be berserking the entire time. And it's really cool and really thematic. While I don't want to get into detailed explanations about systems in Lost Ark, because there are a lot and some of them are very confusing, I will go over the core thing that's important to know. So as I mentioned earlier, as you do the side quests, you're gonna get uncommon engraving recipe selection chest. I kept some just for demonstration. You right click it and you can actually select, and you want to pick Berserker Mayhem. What you do is that you use 20 of them in order to unlock level 1 of Mayhem engraving. So far I think that's pretty easy to understand. What that does is that if you go over here in the engraving slot, you now have Mayhem unlocked. All you have to do is drag this over here in the first slot and drag this over in the second slot. To put it simply, you need at least 5 points of mayhem for that to be active as a passive. So when you unlock a level 1 by using 20 books, the level 1 gives you 3 points. Now when you equip it twice, that's 6 points, which is more than 5 hence activating the level 1 Mayhem, which is what allows us to be always in the ultimate state and just unleash a lot of devastation, especially with this special move that's only available to us. So that's pretty much a rundown on why you should play Berserker. Now that I've hopefully have sold you on the fact that Berserker is a great choice, I'm just going to go over the basic mechanic. That's another reason why I really like Berserker, is that deep down it really isn't that complex of a class. You're in melee range, you're trying to throw out massive AoEs, you just want to do damage, and you have mitigation, etc. So the general playstyle with the Berserker is that because we have so many AoEs, single target attacking people isn't as profitable. So usually we want to lure them into a clump. You can do this with these 6 enemies, but as you see earlier, I do that with 50, 100 enemies at once. And then all we do is we choose one of our long cooldown, hard-hitting AoEs, and we simply unleash it and just wipe them out. So if you spend your skills too much, you're gonna run out of cooldowns. But most of the time, everything dies before you run out of cooldown. Another thing I want to go over for the Berserker without getting into the core mechanics is that you can level up the combat skills and give them specific enhancing just add-ons for the skills. Some of them fundamentally alter the way the build works. So some of them are also super powerful because of the fact that we're always at low HP. For example, I'm going to show you one. There's Hellblade. This gives us outgoing damage plus 80% when your HP is 50% or below. So as you can imagine, we're always 50% or below, therefore giving this an unreasonable amount of damage. So you pretty much run it in every build, even though it is difficult to use. I'll show you right now. You have to charge up and release it, the gauge bar at the exact right spot in order for this skill to work. So the other ones you need to watch out for is the Whirlwind. This is very straightforward. You hold it down and it just spins as long as you hold it down. And the last one, Strike Wave, you can charge it, you can overcharge it. If you charge it to full, it will do 2 bursts. It will have a 2-pronged attack and the secondary burst if you follow my tree and you level it up correctly. So you want to pretty much go through and then take the Blaze Wave. All of this information, the skills you want to take, is going to be included in my Discord, but I will always, in the link down below, include something where you can, a document of sort, probably Google Doc, where you can kind of see all the information you need. But if you're not going to, if you don't want to join my Discord, you're going to have all of that accessible to you in one document. So that's going to be good as well. The reason I didn't go over the other skills because they're quite straightforward. They're usually press and something happens. And there is one you need to watch out for, is the Red Dust, because we spec it. Unsuccessful hits, foes take plus 24% damage for 6 seconds. So this is a very good skill to initiate on bosses with, as you can imagine. And because we have 7 points in it, on hit critical rate plus 20% for 6 seconds. So what that does is that every time you use the skill, you're gonna have a burst window of 6 seconds where you can do a lot of damage to your target. Aside from that, you want to focus on damage for the Berserker because you're supposed to be a DPS class. You probably want crit, you want swiftness as your primary stat, and if you get the other ones, that's okay. But you know, those DPS ones are the ones you want to focus on. And because we have a good amount of mitigation and sustain, we don't need to worry as much as other classes when it comes to being in a sustained fight. So potions are just so much more useful for you than anyone else. So just use it as you need it. Pretty much covers all the basics you need to know for the Berserker, and a lot of the fun of the game is to kind of just play around with it and discover the strength and the synergies and the playstyle for yourself. There will also be advanced guides talking about the PvP with a Berserker later on. It is going to be my main class, so I'll have quite a bit to say in the future about Berserker, how to optimize it for the in-game difficult PvE, as well as how to spec it fully for the PvP. So that pretty much covers everything I need to talk about for Berserker in the way that that's beginner friendly, I believe. If you have any questions, please leave it down below. But it is a very straightforward class and it's a lot of fun. So at the end of the day, like, subscribe, all that jazz if you like my content. And most importantly of all, have a wonderful day. And hopefully I'll see you in Lost Ark, New World, Path of Exile, whatever game you happen to play. So, thank you.